All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into a really, well, sensitive and kind of controversial topic.
Yeah, definitely.
It has to do with how the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, identifies alleged gang members.
Right.
And specifically, we're looking at those who are linked to this Venezuelan gang called Tren de Aragua. You've probably heard about this in the news. It's been a big concern regarding cross-border crime and immigration.
Hmm.
So for this deep dive, you sent me a whole bunch of stuff to look at. We have these reports from Aaron Reichlin-Melnick over at the American Immigration Council.
Yeah, he's a good source.
Yeah, and then some documents that the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, got from ICE, right? From Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
That's right. Yeah, they acquired ICE's, quote, Alien Enemies Act validation guide. I mean, the name itself is a little, well, provocative, I guess you could say.
Well, for sure. And we also have a New York Post article from just this year, some reporting from the Miami Herald, and some analysis from Slate. So a real mix of stuff to dig into. And I guess our mission here is to really understand the evidence, but also the controversy,
Right.
surrounding how ICE uses certain methods, specifically tattoos and symbols, to identify these alleged gang members. So where do we even begin?
Well, those ICE documents that the ACLU got are a good starting point, especially with Reichlin-Melnick's analysis of them.
Okay, yeah, let's start there. So what's the big takeaway from those? What are we looking at here?
Well, basically, these documents kind of suggest that people could be identified and potentially deported to, like, El Salvador just based on what they're wearing or their tattoos.
Hold on. So if an ICE officer thinks a tattoo or some clothes look gang-related, that's it. That's enough to deport someone.
Well, it's more complicated than that, but yeah, that's essentially what some of these documents imply. And that's what makes Reichlin-Melnick's analysis so important. He actually took the time to do reverse image searches of those tattoo examples that ICE provided.
Oh, wow. So like going online and trying to find the original source of the images.
Exactly. And, well, what he found is kind of unsettling.
Oh, I bet. So what did he find?
Well, for instance, ICE highlighted this tattoo of the Nike Air Jordan Jumpman logo, right? With
Yeah.
the number 23.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty iconic. Hard to miss that one.
Right. But the New York Post article tried to link this to the 23 de Enero neighborhood in Venezuela, like it was some specific gang symbol.
Oh, I see.
But Reichlin-Melnick, he found something else entirely.
What, like the real origin?
Yeah, it turns out the image actually originated from get this, a Michael Jordan fan account on Twitter back in 2015.
So just a regular fan showing their love for Michael Jordan.
Exactly. I mean, it's his jersey number. It's not some hidden gang code.
Wow. Okay, so that's a pretty big misinterpretation.
Yeah.
What else did they get wrong?
Well, there's another one that caught my eye. It was an AK-47 tattoo. ICE included it in, like, an intelligence report, suggesting it was gang-related. But guess what? Reichlin-Melnick traced that one back to a Turkish artist's online profile.
So again, no connection to gangs at all.
Nope, just an artist's work being completely misinterpreted.
It's kind of scary how easily they could just make these connections,
Yeah, it is. And there was another one with a train, like an image of a train.
Okay.
And the New York Post, they linked that to the trendy Aragua gang because supposedly they had this whole history as like a railroad union or something.
Uh-huh.
But Reichlin-Melnick found the same train image on like a random blog, like one of those 70 train tattoo ideas for men kind of things. And that blog, it was online back in 2015 at least.
So years before this whole gang thing blew up.
Right. And it wasn't just these complex images either. They even flagged some simple initials from a Thai tattoo parlor, like completely harmless stuff taken totally out of context.
Yeah, it seems like they're kind of grasping at straws here.
Maybe. But these misinterpretations have had real consequences for people. Like this guy, Gustavo Adolfo Aguilera Aguero.
Oh, yeah, I read about him. He was deported to El Salvador, right?
Yeah.
Suspected gang member.
Right. But his mother, she said his tattoos were about love and loyalty. One was a crown with his son's name, and the other was a star with both of their names and the phrase Real hasta la muerte.
And that phrase, that's actually connected to the Real Madrid soccer club, right?
Exactly. Nothing to do with gangs. And then there's Daniel Ramirez Medina. He was a DACA recipient, and ICE arrested him.
What was his story?
Well, he had this nautical star tattoo that said La Paz BCS underneath.
Mm.
And it turns out that's just referencing his birthplace, La Paz in Baja California Sur.
Okay, so again, pretty clear meaning.
Yeah. But ICE still considered him an egregious public safety concern.
Wow. So looking at all this, I mean, it seems like relying on these tattoos and symbols to ID gang members is well, it's pretty unreliable.
Yeah, and potentially very harmful. I mean, the origins of these tattoos can be so easily misinterpreted. And the consequences, well, we've seen what they can be: deportation, separation from families, being labeled as something you're not.
It's a lot to think about. And I guess the bigger question is, what does this say about how authorities use visual information to make these big decisions,
Uh-huh.
especially when those decisions can have such a huge impact on people's lives?
It definitely raises some concerns. I mean, what kind of safeguards can we put in place to make sure things like this are accurate and fair? How do we make sure people aren't being judged based on these, frankly, superficial interpretations? It's something we all need to consider.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
See you then.